So how did you find out about the Alexander technique to begin with?
Well, I found about its existence from, because basically I'm a pianist.
Yes.
And through my very influential and very special piano teacher that I had in my late teens and early 20s. So, you know, this is a few years ago. That there was this thing called the Alexander Technique, and she had 12 lessons from Alexander years before I met her. When I met her, she was in her late 60s.
Who was that?
And she was an American pianist and teacher at the Juilliard School before she came to, before Israel was created.
Yeah.
And when Israel was created, she, more or less, it was time for her to resign from teaching and being a teacher in a school. And she decided to come to Israel. And straight away, a young generation of pianists found her and made her teach again. And she had 12 lessons from Alexander in her day. And she realized that this was a genius that she was in touch with. And she sent all her pupils to him. Some of them understood something important from him. Some didn't, and took it on face value, you know, so that it improved their posture, which it did in any case. But it was, now I see it, not the main feature of improvement. There was something different. For me, the understanding that it is a living response, a living thought process that one triggers with the Alexander Technique. And like any moves on a certain level, and either people stay on that level and go around that way, or they allow themselves to be taken over by the process, which has own dynamics and develops, therefore.
So, do you remember the name of your first teacher?
Oh yes, Patrick Macdonald.
No, the woman.
Oh
the
yes, her picture is there at the piano. Henrietta Michelson. And she taught for years at the Juilliard School in New York, and she was just about to retire when Israel was created, and she thought, fine, I'll spend the rest of my life in Israel. It meant a lot to her. And that is where I met her as a young student still. Although I was already giving concerts, but I was assiduously studying still, and going on with certain people for longish times. And she introduced me to the fact that there existed a man called Alexander, and he taught something very special. And she considered him to be really a genius. And I absolutely agree with that. I'm not dependent on teachers anymore, but I work with teachers. I have a very small group who join me on Zoom once a week, and we work together for an hour without the main way that this work is taught, with direct contact of the teacher's hands, and which gives people a different experience of themselves.
Yes.
And they learn from that. But this goes a certain way, and then one sort of stops the dependence on the tactile change in how you feel, as a result of learning this way of thinking and of doing and of being. And I think in a way it was a win that I moved away, because I was having a teacher's training up to the time that I moved out of my house and came here, which is just about a year and a bit. But the teaching hasn't left me, and I continue. I hope to the last day of my life, and the life has been long already.
Yes, so, very long. Can you tell me a little bit about the time with Macdonald, the training?
The Macdonald training.
Yes.
Well, he was brought to the technique as a child, as a boy, young schoolboy. His father was a doctor, and he was an eye surgeon, and he developed a tremor in his right hand. Well, you can't perform surgery on the eye with it.
No.
I know, because I know I'm having such surgery on one of my eyes, and it's a very tricky thing. So he gave up his profession, and his wife didn't want to accept it. And she happened to be walking somewhere in London. There was a second-hand shop, bookshop, and in the window was a book called The Alexander Technique, by F.M. Alexander, The Use of the Self. Well, where is your self? Can you show me yourself? Intriguing title. She bought the book, and her husband had given up his practice as an eye surgeon. She read the book, and it struck her. So she asked the publisher, where is not the publisher, the book shop manager, where is the man who wrote this book? How can I get him? So they sent her to Alexander, who was in London. And she was so taken that she asked him if he would take her husband on. She told him the story of her husband's profession. And she came to her husband and said, I think I found the person who can help you. He said, well, is he a medic? Oh, no. So he said, I'm not going to a quack.
Yeah, of course, he was a doctor, yeah.
Yes, of course, he was a doctor, that's right. Well, eventually she nagged him into going to this quack. And within 2 weeks, he lost the tremor of his hand. And he was completely besotted by Alexander. And he recovered his use of himself. And he tried to introduce it to the medical profession, of course, with great difficulty. But he was cured, and he could work as an eye surgeon. And he was just a great follower of Alexander's teaching. It is a huge discipline, not easy, and not easy to see through the fog in one's mind what great discovery Alexander made. He contacted the medical profession particularly because he thought that they would be very enthusiastic about it. Not a bit, except the ones who went and had lessons from Alexander. When the famous, surgeons went to him for a number of lessons, they realized that there was something serious there.
That was the father of Patrick Macdonald.
He was one of them.
The eye surgeon and his wife, they were the parents of Patrick Macdonald? Yes. And they sent their son to Alexander.
Yes.
When he was still a child, right?
He was a school child.
Yeah. And he had already problems with his
spine.
Yes,
he had problems with something, a kind of bone disease, I think.
Yeah.
But he took to it like a fish to water. And when he finished school and finished university, he was constantly having lessons. And this took over his life.
Yes.
He went in the direction of this search, really.
Yeah. And you heard about Patrick Macdonald from your piano teacher and Alexander
piano teacher, who was American. She's up there. There's a picture of an older woman at this keyboard playing. And she taught at the Juilliard, the famous music school in New York. But she came to Israel, where I was at the time. And once somebody decided to introduce me to her, and she brought me to her. And Henrietta Michelson was her name. And she chatted with me a bit, and then she said, well, play something. So I played something, and she said, well, come for a lesson on Wednesday, and we will work on so-and-so. And from then on, I was her pupil. And she had had lessons from Alexander in New York.
And she knew Patrick Macdonald as well? Or how did you find out about the training course?
How did I find out about Patrick Macdonald? Well, I can't think clearly now.
So was it before you came to London or after?
I know. London was years after. No, I emigrated to Israel after surviving the Holocaust in my native country, which was Poland.
Yes.
And I was really introduced to Patrick Macdonald by a colleague of mine, another pianist, Israeli born actually. And she wrote to me, you know, you should come here and you should have lessons from this wonderful teacher that I've been having lessons with. And that was Patrick Macdonald. I could have been introduced to another one, which I know that many people were impressed by various other teachers, but when they met Macdonald, they saw that there was something special there. And Macdonald was introduced to Alexander because of congenital problems with his bones, and
yes,
he was a sickly child.
Yes.
So he became a supreme teacher.
Yes.
And absolutely devoted his whole life.
So when did you start your training?
When I was 26, I think. It was in 1956. A long time ago.
A long time ago.
I have been influenced by the technique for a long time.
Yeah. So you did the 3 years with Patrick Macdonald, the training?
Well, I did my training. First of all, I went to have a few lessons. I came from Israel. For 6 weeks, I was allowed to enter England for 6 weeks. And I had to return to Israel. But after 3 lessons with Macdonald, I was so bewildered that I decided I've got to... Yes, and he, at that point, he started, and he told me, obviously wondering whether I would join it. Then he said, oh, by the way, in October or something like this, I'm starting a training course, you know. It will be 3 hours every day, 5 days a week. And it would cost so and so much. I quickly reckoned that if I went to this course, I would pay for each class the equivalent of a half-hour's lesson of the technique. So I did all sorts of things to be able to stay here for a year, although it was a 3-year training course, because I said to myself, I don't want to be a teacher of this, I want it for myself. And this is how it developed. So when I finished 1 year of the training, it was going to be a 3-year official training. I did all sorts of things to be able to stay longer, because on my Israeli passport, it was saying, the bearer of this passport will not undertake work paid or unpaid while in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
So my hands were tied, but I didn't mind that. I wanted it for myself.
Yeah, yeah. So you could stay longer than 1 year and continue.
Exactly. That I could definitely stay for 3 years because that I had a problem finding money for that time, but it was still less expensive than paying for a private lesson. I think it was 3 guineas at the time. Well, for 3 guineas, I had food for the whole week.
Yeah.
Buying cheaply on, you know, Sainsbury's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't think beyond that. I just wanted to be in it during that time.
Yes.
But meanwhile, you know, one lives a life.
Yes.
And I met a young man who became my husband, and a lovely Englishman.
Mr. Kleins.
There.
Oh, yeah.
And he heard of the Alexander Technique from a friend of his, but he never went for lessons until he met me, and I was raving about it. So he went to try it, and then he realized how important it was.
So you also had lessons.
So he had lessons, yes. But he didn't. He worked as an architect, and he was very gifted in music. He, as an amateur, he ran a small chamber orchestra and choir, and conducted a lot of serious music. So he stayed in that, but he was very supportive of me going my way.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of background.
Yes.
From which I worked, which meant that I learned. Because this work doesn't have chapters.
Yes.
You work on a certain aspect of it well, and then because I realized straight away it had a huge influence on my work as a pianist.
Yes.
So I continued, and I had the great luck of having Patrick Macdonald, because he was, I think, the greatest representative of it in this country.
And after the training?
And as I finished the 3 years, it's not a subject that you learn and you finish and then you know it. So I realized that, particularly in the course of the third year, that it's a huge responsibility that you take here, taking over. And well, then started a life of working, discovering, falling into a false groove somewhere in the course, and always going back to Macdonald so he could pull me up sharply and say, "What are you doing?" etc.
Okay, so you started teaching the Alexander Technique and working as a pianist.
Yes, I started teaching the Alexander Technique, but especially in relation to music making.
Yes. But mainly pianists or also other musicians?
Well, I taught the pianists with more authority because I was giving concerts as a pianist.
Yes.
And I was constantly learning new things. And then I had one short interview with the principal of the Guildhall School of Music in London. You know, it is one of the big music academies in this country. And he said, "So when will you start?" He said to me. And I started teaching in the piano department. But my ideas about how you deal with questions of piano playing, of making music at the piano, I began to notice resentment amongst the other teachers. Of course, because it wasn't the tradition. I learned with brilliant teachers in Poland. Poland has a very high standard of piano playing. But then I saw through Alexander that things can be taken quite differently. So now Poland has Alexander teaching.
Yeah. So it wasn't that well known at the time. It was still relatively
well known. It wasn't known.
It wasn't known at all.
Yes.
Okay. And over time, the other piano teachers accepted your way of teaching?
Well, they had to, because if it showed that it worked, you know, but not from their heart did they take it.
Okay. So,
but gradually, as it spread to other departments, I also worked with some violinists, and they were thrilled what they did. They lost some of the pains that they connected, you know, with their with playing without ideas that they could have from Alexander. And gradually, things like this spread gradually.
Yes.
And as I said, I came to Israel, having survived the Holocaust in Poland in an extraordinary way. But I lost my husband, my father, to a most terrible place in Poland, you know, in a camp where they just brought people just to kill them, not even to use them to work, because my father was killed in one of those places, and he was only in his 30s. And I survived with my mother and my sister, who was 8 years older, and the person who arranged false papers for us gave me a different name, different stories where I came from, all invented.
Yes.
But my sister couldn't get these papers with the same name, and she looked very much like me. If you open this cupboard,
this one, that's your autobiography.
Yes.
Oh,
and
yes.
Here am I, as a pianist, and this is my mother, my sister, and myself. Look at how alike we look.
Yes, very much so.
So she had hide under the different name and different.
Yeah. Can you hold it a little bit so we can see it in the picture? Yes. Okay.
Yes, I called it Ashes to Light, and they added a Holocaust childhood to a life in music.
Yeah. So your sister.
My sister went to. Both my mother and my sister were advised they should go into housework. And I was 9 at the time. And so I sort of went with my mother. And I was an assistant in cleaning the house and doing things like that. And looking after a little child at some point. All the things that the Holocaust created. And we managed to survive.
Yeah.
I was a better Catholic than I am a Jew, because I was taught all the how to be a good Catholic girl. And I went to First Communion with a little posy of flowers. Oh. And, you know, I had catechism lessons and so on. When finally the war ended, and I knew all the time that I was not a Catholic.
Yeah.
And I was nearly 12 when it ended. So, but we were so terrified all this time that we didn't acknowledge when the war ended. We didn't straight away say, but I am really not a Catholic, you know, I'm Jew.
Mm.
We didn't acknowledge it because we were in such a state of terror.
Yes.
That we didn't want to admit to just ordinary people around us that we were not, our names were the real names and our religion wasn't the real religion. And so, which was interesting because I found out a lot about the prejudice against Jews.
Yeah.
Not being a Jew, but being one. But I'll tell you a funny story. I'm getting away from Alexander, but at some point I was very watchful, you know, that people wouldn't suspect that something was wrong with me. And once or twice, a parent taught a child who played with me in the street to find out if I was Jewish or not.
Oh.
They suspected that this was a mother with a child, you know, young child escaping. And they nearly got us to the Gestapo, but they just didn't. A girl during the play, she took me aside and said, "Tell me, I wouldn't tell anybody. Are you Jewish?" And I started laughing and ran back to the crowd of the children. You know, every step was a step towards death.
Yes.
So I learned to be very watchful.
Yeah.
And I suppose this, oh yes, the thing I wanted to tell you was that at some point I discovered that we were suspected by some people. And I was very, very frightened. So I decided to go to church and to choose, you know, Catholic churches have chapels of different saints. I can tell you more about Catholicism than I can tell you about it, being a Jew. And I chose a saint to pray to save us. And the saint was Saint Teresa, Teresa of Ávila. She had a beautiful chapel in the church, and I went in secret from my mother because she would have been destroyed by my step. I went to this chapel in the church close to where we resided, and I prayed to her to save us. Well, I am here at the age of 93, and there I was at the age of 9.
Yes.
And it is extraordinary. But many years later, we decided on a trip to Spain for our 25th anniversary. So we were married many years by then. We were going to different places of special beauty, and one of those places was Ávila, which is a village from where Saint Teresa created her center.
Yeah.
And my husband drove from place to place. We booked a trip there. And as we entered Ávila, I was taken aback because there was a huge sculpture of Saint Teresa, and lots of bigger sculptures, bigger still, smaller, little. There were lots of Saint Teresas all over the place, and we were staying the night there. And I said to my husband, as we crossed, I said, Roger, she was my saint to whom I prayed during Hitler. And I was so moved, I wanted to cry, because I said to my husband, who was not Jewish, sort of typical Englishman, however, I said, you know, I'm sure that she had something to do with the fact that we survived. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Yes. But this was so many years later. We already had our daughter. Yeah. Oh, life is the strangest thing on earth. Who invented it? If God invented it, he's very clever.
Yes.
And Alexander found a way of, I don't know, uncovering something in the process of living that could help us to find a more intelligent and useful way of using of living.
Yeah.
And for me, it was Alexander in relation to the piano, because my life really was in music.
Yes. So can you put a finger on how it changed your playing?
Oh, it gave me a simpler way of solving challenges of music.
Yeah.
In a simpler, more coordinated way of using myself in relation to the process of learning, because if you're a musician, you learn all the time.
Yeah. And as an Alexander teacher as well.
Exactly, I was just going to say this, but that's it. Absolutely. And now I teach once a week. I give a class, a small class. They're all teachers.
Yeah.
Because in recent years, before I came here, I ran a training course.
A private course?
All the courses are private.
Private, yeah, of course. Right.
I ran a course in my house with teachers who asked me to teach them to become a teacher. So, and one or two of them continue the contact with my teaching.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell you much about the Alexander Technique.
Maybe you can.
I can't. The simple answer is that I can't. But but yet I have told you what I think of the Alexander Technique. That it is it's a very far-reaching, deep search for something that is very profound and therefore very essentially very simple, but too simple for us to comprehend easily. Really.
Yes.
But on the zero level, or the first level, it improves your the way you are, the way you move, the way you do things. It coordinates you.
Yeah.
That's as much as I can put into words. But if you've had lessons, you begin to understand the words. But Alexander's words are not simple.
No. They aren't. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and you said in the beginning, it's really an experience that you have with a teacher, and then you take it from there. So what is then the next step?
But it doesn't work like this.
Yeah.
You don't, it's good to have somebody who has gone this way much, much longer than you have.
Yes.
So you wouldn't get stuck in a certain place and call it, this is the Alexander technique. Because it is a process. It's an ongoing process in which you discover new understanding of it every few steps, so to say.
Yeah.
This is why people who teach go to teachers themselves.
Yeah.
All the time. Very parallel with music. You are a musician, you may be giving concerts and teach, and you discover in the process, you discover new understanding. And I have been discovering it through Alexander. And so that's why on Zoom now I can guide myself and other people verbally.
Yes.
Through this process of shedding unnecessary preconceived ideas.
Yeah. And how do you work on Zoom? Are people playing and you give them feedback?
Some people get a piano lesson from me. So I use whatever I understand in the process of learning music and solving difficult problems in it. But just for themselves they come, not pianists necessarily, because they discover that a mental work can be very powerful. And that is how I see the Alexander technique.
As a mental work?
Yes. Because everybody thinks it's a fine physical work, but it is much more than that.
Much more, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's truly psychophysical.
Yes. Well, we all are psychophysical.
Yes.
But realizing this and realizing that the psycho part has to learn much more than the physical part knows more. That's what I understand after I don't know how many years, 60 years in the Alexander work.
And in all those years of teaching, you said you mainly worked with musicians and especially
privately
pianists.
I teach, always have been teaching pianists.
Yeah.
But with the Alexander technique, actually any musicians about, because being a musician, I know what pitfalls we fall into. And how simple can a solution of some things be with the help of Alexander's way of thinking.
Yeah. And you worked with them at the instrument or also on the chair?
I have worked a lot with singers.
Mm.
I used to be invited by a very fine Dutch singer who ran summer courses, and she wanted me to come and be the Alexander teacher in her summer courses. And with singing is such an immediate, because it's the whole of you is in it.
Yes.
The whole of you is also in piano playing, in violin playing, in some symphony orchestras these days have a sort of local Alexander teacher for them, because they get it's very hard work sitting in a rehearsal.
Yes.
With different conductors. So who demand, no, this doesn't sound right. This has to be, do you understand? To respond to the demand of another musician who has his idea of how the thing should sound, what the tempo should be, all the musical ideas can be taken seriously and effectively through the character of Alexander's work, which opens other venues for working. I could, once I start talking about it, we can stay until next Sunday at least.
Yeah.
You would like a conclusion?
Conclusion, or well, I'm happy to listen to you because it's so interesting. Nelly.
A description of, tell me, what is the Alexander technique? I can formulate a thing.
Yes.
The Alexander technique is a way of how you function, how you use yourself in life, in your profession, in your relationship with people. All this can throw light on how you are in this.
Yeah.
So the use of the self is a fantastic title.
Yes.
But he had other titles. He had a title which says, the universal constant in living. Oh, what's this about? And man's supreme inheritance. Well, what's he talking about? Aha.
Or constructive conscious control of the individual.
Yes, this is the most understandable, but it is misunderstood, of course.
Yeah.
But their esoteric titles appear to be, but they're very practical. That is why it is called technique.
Oh, that's
Techniques are ways of finding a way to do something correctly, or better than you were doing it until now. And I hate the word technique used in Alexander, but he allowed it to be called that.
I actually don't know where the name, if Alexander gave it the name himself, or if it was someone else.
I think that his students gave it that name.
Okay.
If I were a pupil of Alexander, I think I would give it that name too. Because it has to be that. But I do think when you look at the titles of his books,
yeah,
and then you follow one of them, and you see how difficult it is to understand that it isn't a method. You go to the school of technique, you know, you will learn a technique of something. It's unfortunately because it is life. You are learning how to be alive.
Mm. So it helped you a lot to live your life.
It does. If you take it seriously. It does.
Yeah. Can you imagine a life without the Alexander Technique?
Well, I wouldn't be alive anymore. I definitely wouldn't be. I came to it when I was 26.
Oh yeah.
It's a path of questioning. Everything you discover, you start questioning it. And you go further, you start questioning it. And all the time you uncover something that you didn't see before. This I can say after all those years of following the Alexander Technique. And it's basically very simple. But there's so many obstacles cluttering up the view. And the main obstacle is I.
Yeah.
And I want.
Yeah.
And I am right, but you're wrong.
That's true.
How does one get out of this mistake?
The right and wrong, and wanting to be right and saying this is right and this is wrong,
yes,
has also a lot to do with prejudice.
Of course.
And you were working all your life also in education,
Of course.
in education about the Holocaust as well.
Yes. Well, I wrote the book because I wanted to be a witness to the horror that human beings can reach.
Yeah.
The Nazi philosophy and the Nazi is just completely horrifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you received an MBE for your work.
Oh, in education.
In education.
Particularly in Holocaust education. Yes. But it was in my music education and in how I presented the Alexander work as education. Yes. Yes, I was meddling in education all my life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Nelly.
Yes. But if ever you want to talk more about it, call me up. We can arrange another.
Well, wonderful.